Guys. So we should be up and running on YouTube. I should see my screen and hear my voice, and same for options, or excuse me, same for futures. Okay, good. All right, so hippity hoppity, right on up. New high of the day, right off the open. So we're not going to chase that right now. Let's go down the line and take a look at the YM here. Or the Dow, same thing, right here in the YM. Shot right up, new high at 34,190. Let me take a look at the HVAs. So we need one. So we are at 150. Okay. Pretty close. So good. Like it. YM, excuse me one moment. All right. Okay, so the YM, the Dow, is up 238 points, or 0.7%. Also, note that the S&P is up 0.7 as well, just a touch more there. Looks like audio's good, right? Shoot. Okay, thanks. All right. So, nothing in the YM at the moment. Now, our friend, the NQ. All right, so the 250 level holding strong right now, 13,250, currently up 146 points, or 1.1%. So the NASDAQ is clearly leading the charge, right? Clearly leading the charge. One sec. I need to fix the microphone here. All right. Okay. So we could take a little reversal here in the AQ. Strikes me as a little foolish. So, all right. So the plan today, at least for me, is to try and have tight stops, number one, and number two, move the stops in halfway or break even a lot faster than we normally would. Okay. Just because we don't want to be getting stopped out over and over and over again. So what we did yesterday, or what I did yesterday with the mastery, I'll actually show you guys real quick. All right, one moment. No, let me put the main screen back up. So first trade, small loss. Second trade, small loss. Third trade, small loss. Fourth trade, small loss. Fifth trade, small loss. And then sixth trade was a nice normal win. We got hit on T1, T2, and T3. So we were able to continue taking a few swings, right, and looking to see if we could have had this win, trade 6. If this would have been trade 2 or 3, we probably would have just hung it up for the conservative people and just walked away because it was so choppy. All right, so S&P trading 38, excuse me. YM back down to VWAP. We could buy the YM and sell the NASDAQ. That's not a bad idea. YM. All right, so it retreated right to its VWAP. Pretty neat, right? Swing low, the turn was right there at 34.75, right on the VWAP, so nailed it. Currently trading 115, 125. I got in at 93. So I'm long from 93, and I'm short the NQ from 240. Just it's about 1/10 of what I would normally put on. So my size is very, very small. Stop loss in YM is now break even. Stop loss in the NQ is at 61. You know what? I'll bring it in 5 points. I'll make it 55. So worst case scenario, I lose 15 points in the YM. All right. Let's take a look at HVAs over here. So unfortunately, there's nothing very, very strong at the high here. I do have a level drawn in, but what this level is fencing this main node, so it's not terribly strong. But it is a nice clean ledge though, so do have a little bit of resistance between our entry point and our stop loss. And the target is 195, by the way. I'm sorry about that. 195. Target for the YM is 222 would be T1. 34,222. T2, 34,290. And T3, 34,388. All right, I'm going to bring my NQ stop to break even right now. So it's at 44. Going to go. All right. So right now, the NQ about 15 points in our favor, and the YM about 70 points in our favor. Easy peasy. Oh, but yeah, so Mark, one thing to note is that if we had left our stops where we normally keep them, a lot of those trades would have been winners. But we purposely brought those stops in quickly because the market was so volatile and things were so wide, ranges were so wide. So because like one trade was minus 40, one was minus 100, so they were basically break even. All right, NQ moving our way. Uh, 15. Generally, in this environment, I use 25. Just because, if you look at the range right now, it's 200 points, right? So if you had, or 190, so if you had a stop loss of 15, you're really swallowing up only a tiny portion of that range. So it's very easy to get knocked out. So on a day like today, one of the things I always encourage people to do is reduce their size and double their stops. Right. So I've reduced my size significantly. All right. I'm going to buy my NQ right now for about a 15-point winner because this is going up. So I'm going to buy that NQ right here. And I'm going to add to my YM long as well. So I'm going to buy one YM if we break out and make a new high. And I'm now flat the NQ. Also, it should be noted breakouts in this environment are not very good. So I want to make that super duper clear to everyone. Breakouts in this environment are not very good. Okay. So if you normally do it with 3 lots or 2 lots, you'd want to do it with like a micro. If you normally do it with micros all the time, you wouldn't want to do it because you can't get any smaller. Right. Yeah. So it's too whippy. It's already super wide, and the trend's a little messed up, right, with the big sell-offs of late. So I will enter at 192. Filled. Alrighty. All right, so stop loss is at, I'll go 145. because that's my average entry right now. Because I bought 34,095 and then just now 34,192 or 94. I got 94s. So I'm going to put my stop loss right near the overall break even and use the targets I mentioned earlier. I could send them out to you one more time. How about that? So YM T1 equals 34,222. T2 equals 34,288. T3 equals 34. Oh, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go. So we'll be taking the first one off for about 22 points, or excuse me, 22 at 222 for about 75 total points. What do we think about the NQ? Do we buy this here? With the stop at, what was that swing of all there? 208. All right, so if you want to be aggressive, you can pick up a couple NQ at 25 and have a stop at 0. So buy 13,225, stop loss 13,200. All right. Sorry about that. Now, one thought would be to add at 05 and put your stop at 98. And then risk 7 points on the other half of your position. That's a thought if it goes. So I'm in from 25, currently trading 19. So if you want to get in, you can get in at a better price than I. And just to reiterate that this is a long position. Buying the NQ at 13,225, stop loss 13,200, and I will double my position at 05, 205 with a stop at 198. 198. All right, so T1 was filled in the YM there. T1 filled at 34,222. And so if you missed it earlier, it was a verbal alert, and I said we could sell the NQ and buy the YM. It was right after the NQ failed to make a new high, and right after the YM failed to breach the VWAP. The VWAP was at 75. We got in 20 points later at about 95. We bought more when we made a new high of the day, and then sold it out for 30 points higher which was about 75 points higher than our average. Okay. You know what? I'm not going to double down on the YM here. If I take a loss, I take a loss. That's fine. But again, I'm trading with about 1/10 of my usual size. All right, let's take a look at the Russell. So similar pattern as everything else. We have the upward slope in our VWAP. We have the fast EMA over the slow, both over the VWAP and price over the VWAP as well. We made a new high at about 845, along with the ES and the YM there. Little dip right back up. Okay. And in markets like this, I generally prefer to trade the NQ and the YM or the ES. So always the NQ and then either the ES or the YM, generally not both. Just because you can make a really good amount off of the NQ if you're reading it right. And usually the ES or the YM will be more stable. Lately, it's been the S&P has been the least whippy, least volatile of the four. So I've been focusing on the NQ and the ES. But the signals still apply for the Russell as well. So if you like the Russell and you're better at the Russell, by all means, go for it. Let's look at CL. T1 for the NQ is 257. 257. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention earlier today, retail sales came out. Just bring this down. How about that? Actual negative 0.8, forecast positive 0.7, and then month over month was flat. So a little bearish. Nothing that's going to make or break the day, obviously, as everything is up. So if you're wondering why that particular number or that particular stat does not hold a lot of weight. So the market will very easily shrug that right off. And in 5 minutes, we have Michigan consumer, auto, and a bunch of crap. So we're out. Nothing's going to really, business inventories, etc. So just some little stuff that's not really going to make much difference for us. So crude has been a challenge lately. I mean, look at that chop, 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 chop. High of about 66.50, low at about 66 or 63.50, plus or minus about 25 cents. So that range is huge, huge. So there's not much reason, in my opinion, to be day trading crude just because in order to stay in your trades, your stops are going to have to be really, really, really wide. Now, if you're building up a long-term position, of course, that's different. But I'm assigning my risk to the NQ and the ES or the YM, as I mentioned before. Okay? And gold. All right. Oh, it's the restream titled TG. Ah, shucks. Did I get filled on the 57s? 55s. All right, so I'll send out the targets for the NQ as well. T1 equals 13,257. T2 equals 13. 283. T3 equals 13,305. All right, there we go. So filled on T1. I sold 54s, I believe, so 3 points under. No, these trades are only verbal here in the futures room. Only verbal here in the futures room. All right, T2 in the YM, 295 around the corner. Now, if you want to change those targets for your NQ and go 89.5 for your T2, and then just trail that third lot, that's not a bad idea. So let's do that. Let's have our T2 be 289, and then we'll trail that third one if we're fortunate enough to get a rally here. All right, I am going to grab a little bit of coffee. So give me 2 minutes, and we'll be right on back. Alrighty. So stop in the YM. I'm going to put that at oh wait, you know what? How about 190 or 215? So right by this swing low here and behind the EMA. That'll work. All right. What was the high? Now, one thought is to split your stops in the NQ and put one right up near market price at 260 and then the other one down at 245. So split stops in the NQ, one at 60 and one at 45. YM split stops, one at 220 and one at 190. Alrighty. Ten more. What? 2745. 210. Alrighty, so I think I'm going to sell one S&P at market price with a stop at 54 and a quarter. Actually, make it two. So I'm going to sell two because I'm long four right now, four futures. So net, I'll still be long two. And if this breaks, when we get stopped out, we'll also make a little bit on the hedge. So one or two, depending on how cautious you want to be. Stopped out of one of our NQs. So we have one left. One left. So I will buy. So if you want to keep it really fair, because you got stopped out of one of your four short futures, you would want to cover one of your two, or we got stopped out of one of our four longs, so we have two shorts on them. So net we're long one. All right, I'm out of the S&P. I just flattened. So flat the S&P. Flat YM, flat YM. So I'm just short 2 ES from 51 and a quarter. 51 and a quarter. I will go 40. You could go as high as 45 or as low as 38.5. So if you are also short the ES with me from 41.50, we have about a 4.5 point stop. It has gone 4.5 points, so you can technically cover, but I'm going to give it some room. My T1 is going to be 41.50, and T2 I think I will go 34.5. 34.5. All right, so ES, T1, T2, 41, 34.50. All right, there we go. So yeah, so if you want to take that trade-off for a 4-point winner, 4.5 point winner, more than welcome to do that. If you want to bring your stop to break even and just see where it goes, that works as well. Or if you just want to leave it where it was because you're a bear and you think we'll drop back before we pop, excuse me, judgment call. So because I flattened a little early on those YM and NQ logs, the amount of money I saved just about covered my stop loss. Well, no, it covered half. Covered half of the monetary value of the stop loss in the ES, right? So my break even in theory is at 52.5 because I did take a full stop in the NQ with the YM there. That's really more like 52 even. But anyways, the point is, I'm just going to leave mine at the top there at 41.54 and a quarter and see what happens. Oh, 2-3. So I only have 2 on, so I only sent out 2 targets, but I'm sure a lot of you have more than 3. I would go 25.5. Actually, I go 26 and a quarter. 26 and a quarter. All right. So my ES stop is 51.5. 51.5. Yeah, so AZ, I'm at 42.5 and 34.5. So average out at 38. Or you did. 42, 34. Yeah, probably want to bump those up, but it looks like we'll get okay. So stopped out here at break even. My stop loss is at 51.5, so I'm still in it. I got an extra point. I was a little off on the bummer about the NQ. You can, of course, re-engage in the YM because this is the exact area where we stopped ourselves out. So I'm going to buy 2 at 34,222. So buying 2. Stop loss at 190. Stop loss at 190. And the same targets as before, 295 and 388. So I am long right here at market price. And a tight stop for sure. So NQ currently making highs, trades up to 87.5. We would have been at 89. Should have left my stop where it was. Oh, I'm going to buy one more YM at 210. Bill, 210. Stop 190, 190. Previously quoted 195. Going to adjust that by 5 points. So 34 190 is our stop. And our targets are above the T2 and the T3. And I'll trail the third one. What a move as a good Q. 75, 32, 91. All inside of 10 minutes practically. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Okay, so we're long 3 YM from about 218, 217. Okay? Stop at 190. 2,000 lots on the offer in the ES at 41.50 even. Out. All right, so first loss of the day. That was a pretty tight stop, though. Usually my YM stops are more like 50 to 75. So if you want to have a wider stop and put this back on, that's totally fine. If you want a wider stop, I would use $138, 34, 138. If you want to use a wider stop. Also, I might get back in this myself. Let's look at the Russell. All right, so ag is to stay in the YM trade. I would go a little bigger on your size if you're comfortable with that. And a stop loss at 138. Personally, I am flat. Looks like a good trade, though. So the targets would be I'd go 260 as my T1, 260, T2, I'd go 312, and then T3 the same. I will send those back out. So just a note, I personally am not in this trade. I'm flat across the board. But if you want to be aggressive, this seems like a very good signal, right? Buying a pretty big dip while the NQ's making new highs and the S&P is 2 points away. And there's very little volume resistance up here in the YM, obviously. So if it gets a push, it can move pretty quick. 13,300. Oh, the algos love their round numbers. They do. All right, so the YM back at break even ish. If you re-engaged after getting stopped out at 190 and bought 195s, your true break even would be 5 points above your entry point, right? Because it's the same trade, you just put it back on. If you had to pay 5 points, or if you just put your bid in at 189 and waited for it to come back, but I'm not going to quibble over 5 points, right? But that you should always kind of keep that in mind, because you got stopped out at 90. If you got back in at a worse price, 5 points higher, then just remember your true break even is going to be 5 points higher than your actual entry. All right. If you want to make 260 a soft price target, that's probably a good idea, meaning wait for the market to trade 10, 15 points through 260 and then put a stop for one there. That way, if it just blows up and your T2 is lifted, you'll still have 2 on. But if you're not worried about it, all good. Or you could sell 245s, which is also not a bad idea. As your risk is just about covered. You should already have money in the bank from the first one. All right, I'm going to bring my YM stop to break even, YM stop to, the new entry. So it's up at 190. 190. All right, I'm going to sell, probably best to hedge yourself a little bit and reduce your YM position in case this thing takes. This would cover your stop loss if you don't move it in. Thereabout. Pretty good though. Pretty good little day, if I may say. Very little risk too. Very little risk, very little heat. Very little risk, very little heat. So when I talked about yesterday, we did the same thing I just did with you guys this morning, but the stop outs were quicker. stop outs were quicker. And then when I was in the futures room yesterday, that last NQ trade was about 2,900, I do believe, and that covered everything. It made us a little money. So in markets like this, I like to trade very deliberate, very mechanical, very tight, and completely remove emotion from it as much as absolutely possible. And just focus on the math. Just focus on the probability. All right. Let's take a brief 5-minute coffee break, if that's all right. So I will be back at 9:32 a.m. All right, so 5 minutes. If you need to go to the bathroom, coffee, now's the time. Move that stop loss up in your YM to 185. All right, back in touch. All right, we are back. Take a look here. Bummer. Boomer. Well, we could. If you got stopped out of the YM, I'd leave it. I mean, my thought is I had a good day Monday. Tuesday was a small win. Big day Wednesday. Big day Thursday. So I'm happy to just take those profits, sit and relax, and kind of just see what happens, or wait till next week, really. Oh, shoot. As opposed to sitting here for, 6 more hours and warehousing unnecessary risk, right? NQ, we gave the NQ a shot. We gave it the chance to whip lower. Let's see here. Give it the, where is this? Right here. Give it the chance to whip lower. Didn't quite get there. Got long. Gave it a chance to fly up, but because we had such tight stops, got kicked out. But as we can see, that one big move there inside of 10 minutes was what was challenging. All right, so the Dow has kind of tipped its hand in the sense that it is consistently failing up at the top, right? Consistently failing. I'm going to add a line here. Or adjust it, as the case may be. All right, so here's my HVAs, right? This line was up at 260, but I just adjusted it to 222 because that's about the level where we keep stalling, right? Also, that's where the ledge or edge of this node lies, right? So it actually works out pretty well, and it makes sense because between 34,222 and 34,460, there's very little volume, right? Very, very, very little, and that's not any sort of a surprise, given where the high lows are, but that's where the volume falls off, right? So it's going to naturally want to stay with its buddies inside of this range until there's enough institutional buying to just jam that thing up another 800 points back to 35,000. But personally, I don't think that's quite likely to happen in the next few days. Today, Monday, Tuesday. But who knows? Who knows? All right, if you want to re-engage in that S&P trade right here and sell 2 at 48.5, stop at 52.5. We could actually have you could have a 3-point stop for that matter. You can bring it down to 50 half if you want. But anyways, sell one or two with a 3-point stop and look to buy those same levels as I listed earlier. If you want. If you want. A little prop bet. Made some good money on some of these other trades. So if it goes, you can potentially collect 3x. If you think selling is completely silly, I wouldn't say you're wrong. Just a little prop bet. And then if it goes to 45, 41, 45, if it goes 3 points, you can bring your stop in from 51 half down to 48 half, and then whatever happens, happens. And your bids would be at 42 half and 34 half. Now again, this is only to be done with profits. And if the loss on this trade cost you more than 20% of your profits, that's not a good idea, in my humble opinion. So YM struggling. S&P hovering. So stop here is 41.51 half. So 51.50. I am in from 48 half. So the bid at the moment, you might be able to get in better if you want. But I would have preferred that this worked immediately and right away. So the longer these trades are held, it's almost like theta, really. But it's just the delta of the success kind of goes down. Because if this is going to reverse, you want it to fly, right? Step up, elevator down. But you can see we're holding 44s, 47s, 46s. So V shall see. And the NQ and the Russell are just off on their own planets, as usual. All right, so I have got you for about 40 more minutes. If you have any questions I can help you with, feel free to shoot it over. Shoot it on over. Oh, the reason I got in the short and Q first. That is a good question. So yeah, let's I'll walk you through that right now. So yesterday we shorted the NQ at the very end of the day, and worked out well, ran in our favor, yada yada yada. But part of that was getting in very quickly. So the ES at a time of 1451, so 251, fast EMA crosses slow at time of 251. This is going over the trade we did on the close yesterday. YM did not make a new swing low until 53. It crossed its slow EMA at 53, and the price crossed at 51, approximately 251. All right. Then the NQ all right, so we sold this right after the previous swing low. Well, actually, you know what? Sorry. Right after the market broke through the previous swing high, which was 155, 13,155. So as soon as it got through there, we went short, okay? And we put our stop loss right here behind the high of the day. And from there, I was looking at the CCI first and foremost. That turned, and it was just about, it was oversold. It was down at 245, negative 245. So one thing to remember and to consider is that during high volume periods, i.e. on the open and on the close, the CCI will get driven further, right? So if the market breaks and there's a ton of selling, the CCI is going to get driven further, but it doesn't necessarily indicate that this is oversold. Okay, that's the long of the short of it. So for the first 10 minutes of the day, the last 10 minutes of the day, and then 10 minutes, 5 minutes plus or minus an announcement. Anyway, all right. So when it was oversold on the CCI, that's when I got in because I anticipated all that volume pushing down. I also had the market delta chart that was screaming sell. The ticks, I believe, were changing as well. So the NQ, which is the fastest market of the three, turned. It started moving, right? And the risk reward on this, most importantly, was the best, right? The risk reward on this was really good. So if you got in at 50 or 55, and the stop loss was 75, we only had it there for about 30 seconds and then brought it right down, right? And our reward on that, I'll just show you, was 2,000 860. That's not right. That should be 70. 75. Okay. So 1,200 risk for a $2,900 reward. So about 2 to 5. So pretty good, right? And then all of our other losses were, our average loss was $300. We had 5 of those. So we were down 1,500. And then one trade, all it had to do was work out. It didn't have to be, weren't expecting something crazy. We didn't need some big wacky move. We just wanted one of the trades to hit T1, T2, and T3. So anyway, I heard a bell. Yep. All right. So stopped out of the little S&P. I really want to buy the YM, man. What do we think about that YM? Should we get into that? Just have a super wide stop, super wide target, and leave it be. So the numbers would be the same, right? The numbers would be the same on this, but you want to get in a little lower, ideally. Ideally. All right. So S&P about to make a new high. NQ new high. Russell new high. YM down 85 points from its high. So it would stand to reason this will go eventually, unless the other two just simply collapse into the close. What up, what up? All right, I'm going to use the washroom real quick. I'll be back in a sec. Alrighty. So what are our thoughts here on the YM? You know what? I'll do a poll. How about that? Will the YM settle above or below 34? Let's go 220. 34 to all right. Above course below course. All right, the poll is in the field. And keep in mind, it's 34,220, which is 20 points higher than we are now, obviously. Pretty lopsided here. All right. 72% say we will settle above 34,220. All righty. All right. So, again, that same YM trade is completely feasible right here. Long 3, stop 138, and the target's above. You're a little behind. If ideally you want 190s, 195s, but not a big deal. All right. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Okay, put that down. All right. Oh, you know what? Sorry, this was a little screwed up. There we go. Sorry about that. That was the wrong margin there. So the chart was off the screen. I apologize. All right, so we are back. We still have upward slopes in all of the equity futures. The YM for a moment there started to turn horizontal just for a second, but it's looking up right now. Let's take a quick peek at the 9 o'clock numbers. So little bearish, right? Which couldn't do. Like I said, the market's strong enough; it shakes these off easy peasy. But a little bearish of the Michigan consumer, and that's really the only one of these that matters. So, yeah, that's that. That was about an hour ago. So I've got you for another 20 minutes here. All right, so Mr. Star says we are hitting the gap. What does that mean? It means we broke really far, really fast. And then we need to fill it, fill the gap. That was right here, I think. So, in theory, all this junk right here will slow it down normally, but if there's a gap to fill up here, they kind of offset each other, right? So there's a lot of volume, levels of resistance above market price and below the peak over here on the 10th, okay? So generally when the market comes up to fill these gaps, it trades a little quicker through and fills it a little faster than it usually would. Meaning, if it usually takes a day to go 20 points, and this has to go from 60 to 40, right? So 80 total points. And if it usually takes 20 points a day, it would take 4 days. But because it's a gap, in theory, it'll take less time because it's going to move faster. So re-engage in the NQ. From a mental standpoint, I'm not a fan, but let me look at some of the levels I have here. The only thing we have at 13,300 is that psychological even number. There's no HVA there. There's no recent swing high low there. There's no VWAP there. It is 30 points off the high, which is about what we had for a stop. But so the one thing I would say is that if you do want to short it, I would make my stop higher than the high of the day. So you have to have a 35-point stop and adjust your size accordingly. And then I'm presuming you want to take it down to about 260 right here. But that's only 40 points, right? So the math is not very attractive to me. Now, if you wanted to just wait for it to come all the way to the VWAP and stretch it out down here at 235, and if you sold now and just had a 20-point stop, the math works out a little better. But I don't have any indicator saying sell the NQ right now, other than looks like a reversal is setting up. If the EMA is crossed, then that's fair. One thing you might want to do is, if you're going to do two lots, do one now up here, and then one down at 95 ish, because then you can kind of wait to see if the market does turn through that 300 psychological area. And then if you're in with one at 15, with a stop at 31, you'll be risking 16 points on one, which is pretty good. Now, if you want to go long at 300, same scenario kind of applies, but the difference is there's not a lot of, or any, well, I suppose there is an HVA at 182, and that is the peak of it. So from that perspective, if you got in, sorry, a little off by handle there. What is going on? I said 182, 282, 284. That sounded like a lot of mumble jumble, but I'm trying to give you my best answer. And what I'm kind of seeing is that there's not much defense between 300 and where you would put your stop loss. That's just what would worry me. All right. So the YM, are 72% of you long the YM? I suppose I didn't ask what your conviction was, though, did I? Crude bebopping and hopping around. But yeah, that's a tough little beast to trade intraday or for a 23-hour period. Very, very choppy. Unless you're buying 63s and selling 66s. Fencing this range. All right, so the YM, this time I would go 280, or no, sorry, 288. I'll send them out. The high is 80. We'll grab 288. Not much. Let's go 370. All right. So here are the YM targets. You know what? Let me move this. Yep. Okay. There we go. Those are the YM targets for you. Stop is 138, and our entry is 195, and of course the handle is 34,000. Right. So the S&P hanging out above 4150. So this is a fairly pivotal level right here. If the S&P is going to finish above 4150, I would think it needs to make another push, but I'll wait for Mr. Starr and listen to him, and then I'll get set up for next week. Now, if you wanted to hedge your long YM, I would do so in the Russell. I would sell the R2Y if you're looking for a hedge. All right. Okay, so I got a question about the CCI. So when there is big volume, the CCI, when there's big volume out of nowhere without any sort of rationale during a regular low volume period, the CCI is spectacular in identifying levels that is overbought or oversold. Okay. However, for the first 5 minutes of the day and the last 10 minutes of the day, the CCI is less valuable because there's more volume, and thus it gets pushed around more easily, right? So basically, if you are going to use it, you would want to widen those bands another 25 points. Is the simplest way. It's just because there's more volume during that period, and volume is what pushes that CCI around, among other things. All right. So, YM 288. See, I just don't have a lot of confidence in this thing. I don't know why. All right. So, let's go back to the main, and we are making highs again. The NAS. Russell's come down all the way to that previous, well, not quite, I guess, near that swing low at 2202. The low there was 2203 half, so close, with a high up here at 2213. So it'll probably stay boxed in for a while between 2202 and 2213 if I were a gambling man. S&P came within a point or two there of its high, so it's right on it. And of course, the NQ is making highs as we speak, or just a moment ago. So, with that said, the YM, which is all the way down here, in theory, will go. So the simplest way to look and identify what in theory is leading or lagging is if you look at the percentage change of these, right? and the Russell is changed up 1.7, NQ 1.7, ES 1.2, YM 0.8. So it's fairly logical to assume that they move in somewhat of tandem, right? Now, there are different types of stocks in each future, right? Different baskets, different sectors. So they're not going to behave the same, obviously. But if one's up 2% and one's up 0.5%, you would expect that spread of 1.5% to kind of come in a little bit. So this is not the best example right now because the market has been so whippy lately, and the NQ and the Russell could whip back in a heartbeat. But what I like to do is use the ES as my compass. That's been the most stable product, has been the ES. So I'm just watching the ES, which is slowly grinding a little higher right now. Bummer that earlier today, where is that? Right here. We were trying to buy 24s. It was trading 34. Bummer. It did, because would have had been long from all the way down here. Oh well. Or even 28s. I don't remember precisely. I think I was 28 bid, 26 bid, 24 bid. Anywho. All right. So if you are in an NQ long, and you had a bit of a looser stop, well done. Or if you got stopped out on a 25-point pullback and then re-engaged after it failed. When was that, up here? Yeah. So I don't know. There's plenty of permutations, but again, like I said when I got on the bike, I'm going to trade a little cautious and a smaller size, smaller stops. So we stuck to the plan, right? That's the most important thing, is we stuck to the plan. And the fact that it worked is nice, right? But and when I say worked, we mean that today was a positive day. If today was a negative day, that would be fine too. And then I would, over the weekend, evaluate the quote-unquote plan. And if I have to change it for next week, then I will. But this week worked out very, very nicely. Very nicely across the board. So we'll see how this pans out. My next level in the S&P is 64 in the orders, and then 73 quarter, and then 85. Those are my levels in the upside levels of the S&P. If anyone is interested. So the line trade up about 20 points right now. Not far enough to make any adjustments. One thing you can do is if you don't want to work, if you want to work that T1 down here at 245, that's fine too. Or 255, that's fine too. Just to reduce your exposure and pay yourself a little bit. That's probably smart. But if you want to stretch it out, by all means. By all means. And here we go. All righty, folks. So that will do it for me. I'm signing off for the day, for the week. You guys have been a great audience. Lots of fun. Lots of questions. Lots of interaction today. So good stuff. With that, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a wonderful weekend. And as always, have a profitable day. Bye, guys.